Live.
Do you want the camera nearer to you?
Up to you, up to you.
Okay, wait, I'll move it.
Just bring it nearer.
Nearer is better, hold on. Okay, you check in the live, it's okay?
Okay. Coming out, it's coming.
Cool.
Michael is coming out.
Michael is coming up.
Yeah, coming out. Yeah.
It's
Okay, we
coming
are
up.
live already, right? Are we live?
Yeah, we are
So
live.
I can move.
Okay. Good afternoon,
inside.
everyone. Welcome to the 6th People's Voice PV Open Forum. We always call our open forum, let the numbers do the talking, but today we add another 2 more words. Let the numbers do the talking, not meaningful. Actually, today I very poor thing, no. All the guest speakers never come. So it looks like I'm the only one talking, not meaningful, right? As usual, like in the past, this is the 6th time we are running this PV Open Forum this year. You can message us on PV's Facebook, ask any questions you want. No question is not meaningful, or too meaningful, or meaningful. Let me start with something that is not meaningful. A few days ago, you may have read in the media that the president was briefed by so many entities about the different assets of the government, what was the return, what is the projected return, and based on the projected return, how much can be used in the NIRC, which is the net investment return contribution, and that all these processes have gone through a very thorough and independent assessment. But what is perhaps quite funny and not meaningful is that in the media report on this, there's not a single statistic of what the president was being briefed. No statistics at all. What was the rate of return? What is the projected rate of return? Who did the thorough and independent assessment? And what is the projected amount that the NIRC in the future? So anyway, meaningful or not? Finally, one guest has arrived. Come, Dr. Michael Fung, would you like to sit next to me? Let me move a bit to the side here.
It's okay. Thank you.
Move the chair here.
Hello,
Doctor.
hi everyone. I'm Dr. Michael Fung. Yeah, glad to be able to see you and talk to you today. Yeah, hope everyone's in a good mood. Yeah, and the GST is less than a couple of months away, so everybody get braced and prepared. Yeah, and the GST will be in 2 rounds. So I hope that everybody set aside enough money, right? And so, how much money you need to set aside with the rising cost of inflation and living? Me and Leong will discuss about this, right? Provide you some insights about what's happening. Okay.
Since Michael talked about inflation, I give you a not meaningful statistic about inflation. A few days ago, you read the news, right? Oh, finally, inflation in October has come down a bit. But actually, for food inflation, last month actually went up. It's actually at a 14-year high, food inflation at 7.1%. Although overall inflation and core inflation has come down a bit, food inflation didn't come down. I don't know about you, but ordinary people, to me the most meaningful or not meaningful is food, because that's where most of the money that I or my friends spend on, So, before GST increased 1st January, already food inflation 14-year high. What do you think will happen when GST increased by 1% on 1st January? Michael?
Okay, so basically, to an economic planner, let's say for example, if you want to raise tax, you should do it once, right? Because the business owners essentially will plan for the increase, right? Long before you actually implement it. So when it's first announced, they will start to plan the increase. So the fact that they have actually planned for the first increase, right? The price adjustments amount state that it's X amount and so on and so forth. But you have to go and do it in 2 cycles, in 2 waves, right? I mean, on the surface, it looks like it's slowing down the GST, but the end effect is that the business owners will say, look, okay, we already put aside about this budget, so on and so forth. Your one-time noodles will go from $4 to $5. But for the next one, what are you going to do? I mean, the moment you announce the next GST increase, right, some hawkers will not plan it properly, or some people are not planning properly more, is that you actually have to raise it a second round. And of course, when you raise the second round, the business owners, will have to follow suit, right? And because you have to keep pace with inflation, your salaries, workers, and what. So it is an adjustable reason, a justifiable reason. Of course, the rise in prices cannot be totally attributed to GST as well. Also, the total overall cost of living, which some attributes you can say, okay, you attribute it to world economic factors, right? And stuff like that ever since post-COVID. While that is partially true, that does not, I repeat, that does not account for the drop in fuel prices, for example, that you expect is incoming. But in Singapore, as you know it, right, once the prices are raised, it never goes down, right? More or less, it stays a certain fixed constant. It may go down a little bit, but on the overall trend, it's still rising rapidly, right? So my question to you guys is, how long do you think you can last with this kind of cost of inflation adjustments and stuff like that? Yeah, how long do you guys think you can last? 4 years, maybe? 2 years? 4 years? 6 years? Or 8 years? Yeah. So the question is, when you exercise your, let's say, your right to vote or your vote, etc., did you vote for all these policies? Did you bring in place all these policies? Or do you empower someone to carry out these policies that impact cost of living? We're not just talking about GST, we're talking about taxes in general, the prices of things in general. Like, when your HDB price rise up, okay, you think you make a lot of money, okay? But I've shown a scenario that while you can make money, right? But where are you going to live? You're going to put the money back into the next flat because most are just one property owner, so you sell and you need to buy. If you're thinking of renting, right? Remember, you rent from the landlord. Yeah, the landlord is going to factor in how much you pay for the unit. So your rental is always going to be more expensive than what you think it is. Therefore, if you're going to rent the rest of your life, you won't last past 8 to 20 years, for example, right? At best, right? And you're going to find a new place again. So your next flat is going to be more expensive, and where do you think that will drag your food prices and your overall other inflationary costs? It's going to escalate simply because when the rental market is actually and the so-called the property market is booming in Singapore, is driving the economy along, but not in a good way. Yeah, your cost of living is going to go up, right? And everything else will go up, right? Along with it, because it's driving growth. So it looks as if it's very rosy, right? But you're not going to be very cash rich because your cash is going to be stuck in the next property or the property they're having, right? So what are you going to do about it? You can't do anything. So number one, being cash poor, sorry. You're going to be cash poor, not that cash rich. Yeah? Everything is going to be stuck in the property, right? And then at the same time, cost of living is going to go up. You know that salaries in Singapore have kind of like may not be able to catch up with the economic growth, yeah? That you are seeing right now. So therefore, you're going to be on the short end of the stick, even though the picture and the growth, it looks like there's a slight growth, but you're still going to be, normal citizens are going to be on the short end of the stick, right? With these three things going on. So basically, your salaries cannot catch up with the rising cost of living and inflation, yeah? Right? So with this policies leading to this unchecked cost of living and inflation, how long do you think normal Singaporeans will last? Good question, isn't it? Back to Leong.
Wow, Michael, you talk very meaningful, because talk very long.
Oh, sorry.
Huh? Not like me, I talk very short, not meaningful one. But of course, I from RI one, so illiterate. So Michael, can say which school you from?
No, you're actually quite literate.
I know which school you from, can say or not?
Can. What Chong?
Yeah.
From What Chong?
Hwa Chong, you know.
And
You know,
then
recently in Parliament, the minister gave the statistic that about half of the scholarships go to students from RI and Hwa Chong. And the minister also said, actually it's improvement already, because before that, it's even more than half. So like Michael said, the problem with inflation is, if you look at history, every time GST go up, the inflation most of the time also go up a lot, in the year or in the year or two after GST goes up. And of course, you see, like Michael said, your bowl of noodle cost 3.50 cents. GST go up 1%, so you say, okay it's only 3.5 cents. But the hawker is not going to increase the price by 3.5 cents, no. It's going to increase it from $3.50 to $4 or what, as you can see now, right? The day I went to one hawker center, cannot find anything less than $4 to eat. I only had $3.90 in my pocket. So anyway, I managed to figure out what to do. Okay. Now, Michael talked about HDB, right? Very not meaningful statistic just came out, A few days ago, they announced a BTO, which has very, very strange numbers. Why very strange? This BTO that was announced a few days ago, you have to wait the longest time in the history of AGB. You know how long you got to wait? Michael, you know how long you got to wait for this BTO? How many years? No.
Maybe you tell.
Never read the news. 7 years. This is the longest wait BTO ever in the history of HDB. Not only that, this BTO is also the most expensive BTO ever launched. So HDB is setting new records. Wait the longest, highest price for BTO. Okay, let me move on to another not meaningful statistic. I have been analyzing government statistics for like 30 years, right? Recently, I discovered the most shocking, the saddest statistic I've ever seen. And I'm going to tell you now. Be prepared, don't cry. In the last 20 years, from 2001 to 2021, the real median income increase of male non-PMET full-time employed residents was only 0.4% per annum. Repeat, in the last 20 years, male non-PMETs, PMETs means professionals, managers, engineers, and technicians. Full-time employed ones. The real increase in income was only 0.4% per annum. Crazy, right? Michael, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, Leong's statistics is probably correct on this point because
Yours is probably correct. This one I take from the government statistics one. Don't have properly, okay?
Okay. So in essence, okay, very simple. When you go to the streets, okay, you ask a taxi driver, okay, how much do taxi drivers earn in the 1980s? I mean, everybody knows, right? Because there's only a certain rate you can work, certain number of hours, certain number of passengers you can pick up. So it's limited by this, and basically it's on the average, taxi drivers, the income is about 2,000, 3,000 in the 1980s. Okay, so I went to ask a private hirer, a few, not just one, in any of my rides. Okay, so how much you earn? Normally the reply comes back 2,000-3,000. So if you think about it, this is 2022 minus 1980. It's a 40 plus year gap, right? 40 plus year gap, right? And you're still earning 2 to 3K. Whereas inflation, right? If you take a normal inflation raised by bank calculations, right? Probably every 20 years it would increase by somewhere between 50 to 100%, right? So you are already past 2 generations where the salary is stuck at 2,000-3,000. I mean, come on, it's laughable, yeah? It is totally. You know what your what your stress on the cost of living and the stress on your daily life is going to be like, right? How can your salary be that of 40 years ago and everything is going up at accelerated pace, especially with all the influx of foreigners putting stress, stress on the demands, right? So, like for example, a foreigner can buy a piece of bread for, let's say a piece of bread is first offered for $2, right, or $1. Okay, let's say you sell at $1, okay, and then okay, you want to buy, you maybe come at $1, $1.10. But the foreigner comes in and is earning about 10 to 30K. Look, you can just throw $10 on the table and say keep the change. So who do you think the baker is going to sell to? And what will the eventual price be? So with all the immigratory stresses coming in and foreigners taking good jobs, right, and your salaries not keeping up, can you actually afford to pay for the exorbitant cost of living in today's society? So that is an interesting question, yeah? Yeah, so that's an interesting question. And if you see the, for example, okay, like Leong was talking about wonton noodles or some hawker food costing about $4 minimum. But the truth is that I went to ask one of the participants the other day, right, at our meetings, and we asked them, okay, look, I think that hawker food, like chicken rice, a plate of chicken rice will be from $4 to $8, right? And your coffee is going to be from $1 to $2. I said, this projector. I said, yeah, it's true. The day I went to eat chicken rice, it's really $7. Yeah, okay, yeah. So the day I went to eat chicken rice, it's already $7. Yeah, and kopi is like $1.90. Yeah, kopi peng. Yeah.
Well, listen, you stress that got to cough.
So this is okay. So I'm going to do a series of projections later with Leong to see how much money you actually need to save to set aside for the next coming 4 years if this trend is going to prove to be true.
Well, after listening to Michael, very stressed. The throat very itchy now. Hey, anybody can find some water somewhere? Okay, never mind. If cannot, never mind. Okay. So, let me give you an example how not meaningful it is. Like Michael said, when the income, especially like non-PMET is normally low income, right? 900,000 non-PMETs, okay? Yeah. Imagine 20 years ago, your pay was $1,000. Every year will increase 0.4%. That means what, $4? So now 20 years later, your real pay has only increased by $80. You're still getting $1,080. How to survive? Cannot survive, right? Okay, another not meaningful statistic. A few days ago, there was a survey done, reported in the media. Really not meaningful, 42% of people with HDB mortgages have difficulty paying. Michael, you say food expensive, maybe buy cheaper one or eat instant noodle at home only 15 cents a packet, cheapest one So, but if 42% of the people with HDB mortgages have difficulty paying, serious, right? Not meaningful, right?
This is a very meaningful statistic because if 42% cannot pay for all their HDB mortgages, what do you think will happen to their property? Okay, as in any property transaction, if you cannot service your loan, the bank has two options, or the HDB has two options. Maybe either to repossess your unit, right? Take it up, take it back again, or to force you to resell. Yeah, yes or no? This is proper. Proper transactions, because if you don't do that, then look, who's going to tank the debt for you? Yeah. Okay, we're living in Singapore as a practical world, right? So if that happens, you and your child may be either out in the streets or the HDB lots of money and you're going to pay back. So you become a slave perpetually or become homeless. Yeah. So this is a situation we Singaporeans must get out of. PB has solutions for this, right? So we can't review at this very much at this stage, but we have solutions for this, right? And we will try not to cause Singaporeans to suffer, yeah. All right. So that is a kind and compassionate society we should work towards, yeah. So ever escalating property prices may not be to your advantage because your money will get progressively locked up with each transaction. minus the costs and all the other things you put, lawyers' fees, conveyances fees, stamp duties. So stamp duties is where the government earns some of its money from, yeah. So there is a lot of issues here with ever escalating property prices, not just for the young, but for existing homeowners. You think you struck it big, but can you cash out the money? No, and each transaction that you buy towards the next home is going to be costlier, and is based on the current prevailing interest rates, which translates to much higher interest. And you look at the global interest rates nowadays, it's not a joke, yeah? It's going to be 4%, yeah? Am I correct? And if 4% times 20 years by simplistic calculation, and mind you, it's compound interest, by the way, yeah? So it's not as simple for calculation as it is, so it's even worse, yeah? So bear in mind that you need certain trends in the property market to cash out. You can't be have an ever escalating property price market, ever escalating cost of inflation in Singapore, and hope to survive this trend. Yeah, a lot of you are now under stress. 43% cannot pay off. You think it's a sweet dream? I don't think so.
Hey, Michael, you know why everywhere people talking about not meaningful? Coffee shop lah, social media, every talk meaningful. You know how it started?
Well, someone made a statement, but we're not going to that. Yeah, it may not be meaningful to discuss that, but it's more meaningful to discuss what impacts Singaporeans. More meaningful to discuss the ever-escalating cost of living. More meaningful to discuss what the property prices mean to even existing homeowners, people with existing loans, and people who want to buy homes. You know, affordable homes. So we must understand that in order for these policies to be corrected, the correct parties must be put into place. Like for example, you see in Malaysia there's Pakatan Harapan, right? Yeah. So they made the bold move to change. And if the current system doesn't work out for you, then you must think, you know, is having a 30-year civil servant actually the right move to do? I mean, look, they are qualified, but are they really the right fit for your thing? So, you know, no matter how qualified they are, you know, if it doesn't fit into your policy bundle, or if it's you're feeling the suffering right now, then you must think, because every government starts from somewhere, and doesn't mean they start from somewhere they are incompetent. It's just because they just lack the experience, but the experience might not translate into something good for the local citizens.
Oh, Michael, you talk like minister, eh? I ask you how the not meaningful start. Then you say, oh, it's not meaningful to tell you how the not meaningful start. Hey, if anyway, I think it's not your fault lah, because you all A student for O and A level, right? So you scholar lah, so you think alike lah, okay, but I write literate one different My A level only B, E, then sub means actually fail the A level, then become O level pass sub lah. So I ask the question, you don't answer, I have to tell you lah. How come everybody talk about not meaningful? Because recently in Parliament, the MP asked, excuse me, can you break down the cost of the HDB flat? Well, Minister, very long speech, no, but basically Minister said it's not meaningful to answer your question or to give you the breakdown. That's why everybody talk about not meaningful. But I tell you why it's very, very not meaningful. Perhaps the breakdown cannot be given, because if the breakdown is given, then everybody will know, oh, you mean that's how the HDB pricing works? Anyway, I RI one, I failed maths, not deep fail. My maths is like P6 now, okay? So I give you the formula, okay? So you don't need to like try to figure out all the breakdown on this. Very easy. The formula is this, okay? You at home, you watching or you on bus, whatever, you want, you can take paper and take down. Very simple one line only, okay? Construction plus land minus subsidy compared to the price is the net positive or negative cash flow to the government. Repeat, simple, okay, one line only, mathematical formula. Price minus construction minus land plus subsidy equal to cash flow, net cash flow, whether positive or negative, right? People are being both smart because they say, you know, it's negative, then they say, no lah, you know, right? So at the end of the day, we leave it to Singaporeans to figure out at the end of the day, right? If you track the net cash flows, right? is the government having a positive cash flow or a negative cash flow, right? Because the land cost is the HDB paying to another government agency for the land. So HDB lose money, of course, right? But since the money goes to the other government agency, right, the net cash flow has got to be positive. So at the end of the day, it's actually not meaningful, it's very meaningful, because 80% of Singapore, now the mic die. Okay, the mic person not here, so okay, never mind. Try to speak louder, okay? Okay, Michael, we are like a Hong Park, so have to shout already. Okay, you shout first.
Actually, there's nothing to shout, okay?
Louder, nobody can hear, no.
Hello? Okay.
Oh,
Alright, actually there's nothing to shout, but I'll just have a moderate volume of voice. I hope you guys can hear me. Alright, in essence, Leong has basically said about the meaningfulness and non-meaningfulness of the HDB question. So, while I agree that there's some point to what he's saying, I also find that what matters to Singaporeans is how much will the HDB cost to them? Yeah, how much is it affordable to them? And the price at $1 million, I do not really think that it is affordable, because if you say it was over 25 years, well, some people say that even a Lamborghini is affordable. Yeah, I mean, you want to take it that way, or 30 years, yeah, or 40 years, yeah, but yeah. So the question is, when people buy the HDB at the current rates, will they lose money or will they make money? Can they, are they able to pay off their mortgage rates at which they get an affordable home? Yeah. So as you see, 43% have difficulty paying off their mortgage loans, and that is an indicator, isn't it, as to what the trend will be? Yeah. And that was even before, right? Most of them bought their property before the current rise in interest rates. Okay, like I was saying with Leong, right? So if you take out your calculator, price of chicken rice from $4 to $8. Actually, I have it on record and evidence already that some hawker stalls have actually progressed with this, already progressed past this trend and onto this trend of $8 per plate of chicken rice already. Because the problem is, you can't just cook instant noodles and eat egg whenever you go. First of all, it's not healthy, and second of all, you eat where you work. Yeah. So if you're at a workplace and the price is like that, you just have to comply unless you want to starve the whole day. You know what I mean? You can't bring an egg and crack there and start cooking there. I mean, that is not our socially accepted norm, yeah. You eat where you work, right? And if your workplace has chicken rice from $4 to $8 in the next few years, your coffee or tea is $1 to $2 in the next few years. So let's take a period of 4 years, for example, for average working Singaporean. So every meal you have increases by, let's say, a meal and a cup of tea and coffee. Every meal is increased by $5, right? You eat 2 meals a day. I'm not even talking about 3 meals. You eat 2 meals a day. It is a $10. It is a $10 increase in price. All right, for a day. All right. So how much is it a month? Times 30. Oh, you're mathematician.
I write literate when you are.
Okay, all right. So $10 times 30 is $300. Okay, times a year is $3,600. Just the increase. I'm not even talking about the food alone. I'm saying due to policy changes and the cost of inflation, what you see, what you need to set aside for the increase and not the food alone, it's already $300 a month. All right, expectedly. $300 a month times 12 is 3,006, right? A year. 3,006 a year times 4 years for which you give your vote. Remember, your vote is not just for the previous records, it's actually for the future. So for the future, right, for the next 4 years, not for the next 2 months, mind you, for the next 4 years. So 3,006 per year times 4 is 14,400, right? 14,400. Then, okay, let's say you're a family of 4, alright? Remember, I'm only calculating increase in food costs, alright? And not even the food cost itself, not even childcare, not even transport, right? Not even education, alright? I'm just talking about food to survive the next 4 years. Singaporean being practical people, right? So let's do a calculation here, alright? let's see what the numbers yield. Alright, give me a while. Okay, so if you do the calculation here, so it is 3,600 per year. That one you can get pretty easily, right? And times 4 years is 14,400. Okay, numbers are here. Okay, so we're going to talk about numbers and hard facts. So just to accommodate the increase of prices due to inflation, cost of living, taxes and stuff like that, yeah? So it will be 57,600 for a family of 4. So my question to you is this. How much does the government give you, by the way, to offset all these? $600? $1,200? $1,008? We are talking about the difference between $1,008 and $57,600 just to accommodate for the policies. So let me ask you, is a $600 or $1,008 given to you by the government more meaningful than the savings of 57,600 potential savings that if your vote had been for the right policies? Which one is more meaningful? $600 or $57,600? Just for food. I did not talk about rising cost of education. I did not talk about rising cost of transport. I did not talk about rising cost of healthcare. I did not talk about rising cost of childcare. Alright? So, those of you who are happy, government very good, give me 600, give me 1,008, give me 2,000, give me 3,000, give me 10,000 even. What is the difference between that and your policies here? Okay, just for food. Remember, I was just calculating for food. If you want to calculate the full works, right, including, like, for example, if we can raise every Singaporean salary by 1,000 to 2,000, would that be more meaningful than just giving out a handout of 600? Will getting back your CPF to enjoy your remaining years be more meaningful? What will be meaningful? $600? $1,008? I give you 5,000. Which one is more meaningful? I mean, of course, if they give you this amount, okay, I'll just take a step back and I'll recalculate, right? Maybe, you can give it to them. You can just say, oh, okay, you did so well by the citizens, we can just let you have it. Have the seat, yeah, no issue, yeah. I mean, we don't mind. I mean, as long as the policy is correct, right? Yeah. So, does the government give you $600 or $57,600? Okay, we just talk about money. Then the other things aside, I'll leave it to Leong, yeah, to discuss further.
Wow.
Over to you, Leong.
Michael, I'm very blurred and very confused. You take phone, then multiply this one, that one, all. Don't forget that I'm from RI illiterate one.
Okay.
But anyway, whatever this, you sound very meaningful, okay? But what I caught something interesting that you said just now was, I think you mentioned something like, is it the policy that in some way caused the problem or something, Okay, right. So, we have been talking about the income, increase very low, right? So let's talk a bit about maybe is it the labor policy that may have caused that the income increase to be so low, right? So let me give you some meaningful numbers to digest. Now, in the 15 years from 2005 to 2020, foreign workers' job growth was about 750,000. Local jobs growth was about 580,000. So, foreigners, workers' job growth, much more than local job growth, right? Okay. But local job growth means Singaporeans and permanent residents PR growth, right? So in the same 15 years, we granted 635,000 new PRs there. Wow. So you had 580,000 local job growth, but you granted 635,000 new PRs, and when a foreign worker is granted PR, is automatically converted from a foreign worker to a local worker and is therefore counted as a local job growth. So how many of the 580,000 local jobs growth actually went to Singaporeans? I try to be like Michael, okay? You open your calculator, I thought you try.
Alright.
Now, 635,000 new PRs granted in the 15 years.
Okay.
Let's say 60% of them are working one, the foreigners who are working.
How many percent again?
60%.
Alright.
So multiply by 60%, what you get?
We get 381,000.
Okay, so out of the 635,000 new PR granted, maybe about 381,000 were actually working, right? And so all these people, right, were then converted and counted as local job growth. So again, the very not meaningful question, how many of the 580,000 local job growth, right, went to Singaporeans?
Okay, so it's 580,000 minus 381K, yeah? 380. Correct, right? 580,000.
Not exactly lah, I tell you why. You have 580,000 job growth, okay?
Alright.
Then you say estimate 380,000 new PRs who were converted and counted and local job growth, okay?
Yeah, alright.
Then you got a difference of how much?
The difference is 199,000.
Okay, one. So you said, so does it mean that 199,000, right, of the 580,000, okay, actually went to Singaporeans? Well, maybe, we don't know, right? But if you compare, the foreign job growth was 750,000 there. This is like peanuts compared to that one, right? Now, actually, Michael brought up a very interesting point. He said, okay lah, so does it mean the difference that are all Singaporeans? Okay. There was a very interesting debate in Parliament recently, a few months ago. Very interesting one. Because the NCMP asking for a breakdown of the jobs into local jobs into Singaporean PR. So don't have answer. I think more or less also the same thing lah. Like not meaningful lah. What you want to know lah. Don't know what lah. Can't remember the exact words lah. Okay, I cannot quote the exact word. I cannot pop ma right. Okay, but something like that lah. But what's very interesting is the minister in reply to the NCMP said this. Hey, why you keep asking the same question? I already told you a few months ago that 13.5% of the citizen workers are not born in Singapore.
Okay.
So like, it's not just as simple as, the difference must be all the Singaporeans, because minister say 13.5% of the citizen workers are not born in Singapore. But actually, he forgot something, forgot which minister come from which school, but never mind, okay?
Okay.
Because he only talked about 13.5% not workers, citizen workers not born in Singapore. What about those born in Singapore, not as citizens, and subsequently become citizens? A lot also that. Well, anyway not meaningful to try to figure out what is the exact number. It's just that one thing is for sure it's not meaningful when even you ask questions in Parliament, there is no answer right?
Yeah, that would not be meaningful. So we need what would be meaningful is that if we got more MPs, being able to ask the questions and get the correct answers, right, from the presiding government, that would be more meaningful, wouldn't it?
Okay, I think the time has come where it will be more meaningful to get the questions that people are asking, right, on People's Voice Facebook. Jack, can you read out for me?
Okay, we have one question. Minister said demand for HDB remains high and that causes prices to be high. What is the root cause of this demand when Singapore has one of the lowest fertility rate in the world?
Well, this one I think very difficult question. I leave it to the Hwa Chong, all A students to answer.
Okay, I humbly try to address it. Okay, in my best ability. I mean, don't call me if I'm wrong, because it's a matter of opinion. But okay, let's take it mathematically. All right. So basically, Singapore has a very low replacement rate. Okay, the replacement rate is 1.1. All right, the replacement ratio is 1.1, and so basically the replacement ratio is at 1.1. We are actually under replacing our population, and our population is not increasing lah. The best case scenario is everybody is still alive at the end of the counting period. What happens is that we did not increase our population, and therefore, that means i.e. there's no increase increase goes to zero right? And therefore, mathematically, we are looking at the influx of new citizens, all right, the influx of new citizens, as well as the pressure put on the HDB market by the private market. Like for example, let's say if the private market is totally saturated, right, then more Singaporeans, because the Singaporeans buying into the private as well as the public housing market, right? So basically, if the private market is also saturated by the influx of foreigners, what happens is that Singapore, oh look, I can't buy private because it's too high, so now I must buy HDB. So that's a possible cause. But the main and probable cause is the huge influx of new citizens, right? And maybe even demand on space by foreigners in the private market, such that Singaporeans are priced out from the private market and start to go into the private market. Also, there's also an interesting phenomenon of downgraders, right, from the private market to the public market, public housing market I'm talking about, yeah. So, for example, those that cannot afford to pay their private homes anymore due to economic reasons, bad policies, things that cannot sustain their paying, okay, due to COVID as well, yeah, and they are forced to downgrade. So there's this certain segment of people, right, who essentially have forced to downgrade. So this caused immense pressure on the public housing market. The new citizen converts are actually the main suspected cause of the issue, yeah, and so that will be a direct cause of pressure. So as everything, as demand goes up, right, your price also goes up, right? These are basic economics, right? Even though I didn't study economics, but basically there's some basic understanding, right? Right now, yeah, your supply goes down, your price goes up. Yeah, so these are the basic factors. So I hope that answers your question, right? In essence, that the conversion to new citizens, various factors from the private market push towards the public housing market, and all of them are not good indicators of what life in Singapore is going to be like. Yeah.
Well, Michael, you didn't study economics, but I studied econ A level, then fail, got sub. So I will try to answer the question, but since from RI not literate one, my answer of course not as meaningful as Michael one, right? Like Michael say, right, new citizen, on the average every year 21,000 new citizens. So new citizens can apply for BTO, right? So got demand lah. Then on the average, every year 30,000 new PR granted, right? The PR also can buy resale HDB flat, right? Yeah. So if you push the demand for resale flat, the price will go up, right? Then the BTO price is back to the resale flat, then the price will go up. Now, then Michael also mentioned downgraders from private to HDB. Well, actually, the recent announcement, jalan, a lot of private property owners are very stressed now because they just announced, I think about a month ago, that for private property owner, you can downgrade the HDB, must wait 15 months. So all the people who cannot pay their mortgage, lost their job, business fail, become very sick, got accident, whatever reason, no choice, got the ground HDB, got to wait 15 months, die lah. But anyway, they said, no problem, you appeal, and they say they'll try their best to try to put through as many of the appeal cases as possible. But in my view, one of the reasons why the demand is so high is because of the 99-year lease drop to zero problem. You see, now everybody knows that at the end of 99 years, your flat becomes zero, right? So your HDB has gone up in smoke. All the CPF you used to pay for HDB has gone up in smoke. All the cash you used to pay for HDB has also gone up in smoke, right? And the moment your flat is more than 40 years old, wow, you see the price start dropping, because everybody know got this problem, you got over 40 years, you got restriction on use of CPF to buy older flats, you got restriction on the housing loan you can get to buy older flats and so on, right? And so these decades of asset enhancement policy, right? It's nonsense,
It's a fake, right? Yeah. I can call it out directly. It's a fake.
Okay. Michael said fake, I didn't. I say nonsense only, okay? And so, what is the solution? Well, people are being told, hey, don't worry right? You downgrade You downgrade, you will make money, right? So what's the problem? Here's the problem. If you look at the statistics, every time BTO come out, the second timer Wow, to get a BTO, like that's lottery. You know why? Okay. 5% of the BTO, I understand, is reserved for grassroots. Okay? Up to 95% is reserved for first-timers for 4-room flats in non-mature estates. What does that mean? Okay, 100%, 5% reserved for grassroots, left 95%, right? Then 95% of the 95%, okay, is reserved for first-timer in non-mature estate like 4-room flats. So left only how many percent for the second-timer? 4 point something, right? And not only that, no, you got all these priority scheme, while you stay near your parent, you got priority, and now they're also talking about priority for people who have urgent need for HDB flat. What do you mean urgent need for? Oh, maybe the person, got children already, then need flat more badly lah. You know, people like Anwiwi, right? Give birth to 3 children in 4 years, if you need a flat, this type is called, at least I saw in the news that this is one of the possibly what they call urgent case law. But Henry lucky lah, she got HDB flat already lah, right? So so you see the bottom line is
Okay,
you are second timer, very very hard, right? Yes, Michael.
Sorry, just to let me clarify. I say it's a fake news, referring to that statement that HDB is an asset enhancement scheme over the years, right? But over the years, we're talking about extended duration. In the definition of extended duration, over the years as it drags out, over 99 years, the value decreases to 0, right? Yes or no? At the end of 99 years is 0. Therefore, the statement asset enhancement over the years is a fake, right? But whereas immediate asset enhancement due to price increase may not be, yeah. So I have to clarify that.
Okay. Yeah, anyway, HDB a lot of problem, right? SIRS Amokyo, Selective On Block Redevelopment Scheme. In the past, you cannot SIRS, you say, tax lottery, right? Okay? Then this SIRS, instead you have to top up as much as $100,000 in order to get the same size flat. Wow, so some of the residents jumping up and down, right? You know what I mean? If you have no CPF to pay, you cannot afford to pay, got no income, cannot get loan, then how to come up with up to 100,000 to get the replacement flat, right?
It is still to come up money for a smaller size flat.
Slightly smaller lah, okay. 4-room to 4-room, the new one is a bit smaller lah, maybe like few percent smaller lah, but small thing. So, but the very funny thing is, so all the residents are unhappy, right? So they filed a parliamentary petition for the SIRS, HDB SIRS to be reviewed, no? Now the first time they filed, it was rejected lah, because I was in parliament that day. They said don't meet don't know what the rules of parliament for filing but anyway, subsequently it was filed, then it was accepted lah. But the answer just came out, a few weeks ago. The answer of the minister is that, because there will be very few SIRS in the future, so there's no need to review the SIRS scheme. Excuse me, Minister. Even if there's one SIRS in the future, it affects the residents. So how can you say because only very few, we don't have to review? You have a big problem, you must review. Because you cannot have people who are being forced to give up the flat, right, to move to a new one, and yet, unlike in the past, they have to top up as much as 100,000. You might as well ask the guy to jump down, right?
Okay, but let me correct you on one statement. That SIRS, by the way, isn't meant to be advantageous to the residents. That's where people make that mistake. SIRS, if you see Wikipedia and other places, right, and other the source, right, and check other sources of information, the net, you'll find that actually SIRS was intended to be selective and block replacement scheme, right, which is meant for the government to pick and acquire certain pieces of land that they wish to redevelop, that they wish to develop, not to bring about advantages to the residents, but that they wish to develop into new blocks or new accommodation as to their liking. Right?
See,
so
the problem with SIRS is in the past, you have SIRS, don't you top up so much money, now you have to, right? So it's an entirely different story. Okay, now we only have like 6 minutes. Sorry. We have 8 minutes left. Okay, I have to go on to what I want to say is probably the most meaningful statistic affecting Singaporeans. And this is what I call the mother of Singaporeans' problems. You want to guess, Michael? What is the mother of Singaporeans' problems?
No, that blows my mind.
The mother of Singaporeans' problem is CPF. Why do I say CPF is the mother of Singaporeans' problems? Because if you track the cash flows in our CPF system, the inflows exceed the outflows by about $40 billion in the last 12 months to June. Let me repeat. If you track the cash flows on the CPF system, the inflows exceed the outflows by about 40 billion in the last 12 months to June. What is the breakdown of the 40 billion? The contributions less the withdrawals, the difference is about 27 billion in the last 12 months to June. The difference in the interest from the returns that the government invests versus the interest that is paid to you, we estimate if the difference is say 2.4% or so, it's about 13 billion. So you add these two together, 13 billion plus 27 billion, the inflows exceed the outflows by 40 billion. And that's why I say, arguably, not so meaningful. This is the mother of Singapore's problems. Because 40 billion there. Which other country has a national pension scheme that works like this? Can you imagine if this, if not for this 40 billion, right, Singaporeans will be have much more money, right? Then a lot of the problems that we're talking about, right, inflation, cannot pay mortgage, slowly all will, be not as bad as they are because of the money that is, in a sense, right, stuck in the CPF system where you look at the cash flows. We have another question. Yes, Jack?
Okay. MAS requested households to be prudent in spending. Rising interest rates was cited. Looks like 2023 will be bleak when coupled with a GST increase and also a rising cost of living. Yet our citizens appear to be either complacent or indifferent or ignorant. What can be done to raise awareness on issues that impact us?
Okay, so speeches like this, political education is very important, financial education is very important. We must understand how policies affect us. We must also understand how financial planning and financial management affects us, right? Of our own personal capacity, right? So I think that's a very fair statement to make. So without that, without raising this awareness, without Singaporeans making an active effort to say, look, my pockets are going to be empty, I've been overspending, this habit since COVID, but it cannot go on now that COVID has actually, actually abated somewhat, and we need to plan our finances carefully for the next few years, right? And we need to learn how to vote properly so we get the proper policies in place that will actually help Singaporeans. I mean, look, as I said before, $600 versus, how much was it? $57,600. So the question is, does the government give you, would you be happy if just give you $600, or would you be happy if they give you the right policies? Maybe with the right policies, you can get an increase in actual income, right? To keep up inflation, like for example, $1,000, $2,000 more money salary, or even a decrease of the GST will make your food cheaper. So basically, you must ask yourself these pertinent questions and ask your neighbors around you these pertinent questions, so they actually, get aware instead of just slaving day in and day out without planning. Okay, look, like for example, if I have a donkey or cow, right, that plows the field, it can plow all it want, but without the seeds, without the correct management and thought, it will plow endlessly for the farmer. It won't plow enough to feed itself, to feed its offspring, because it doesn't have the planning, right? So it just follow the farmer blindly, and at the end of the day, the cow is killed, So the question is, or a donkey that turns a meal, it keeps turning the meal without thinking what is turning the meal. So let's say if the farmer decides to keep most of the produce and gives it a little bit until it starves to death, that's another interesting question, right? So to answer your question, you not only do the people need to raise their own financial awareness, right? You can speak to your financial planner and stuff like that, right? And also getting the right policy. So with the right policy base, then you can determine your right jobs, your right salaries, and feed your hierarchy of needs upwards. Yeah, because like for example, if you live in a communist state, for example, I talk about policies not just in Singapore. I talk about other places as well. Let's say you live in a communist state, no matter how hard you work, you're going to get the same salary. Then for what? So the thing is that, right? Policies determine the type of jobs, the salaries of jobs, the scale of needs that you want. Yeah, and how is the proper distribution of resources done in an emergency situation or in a very dire economic situation. So all these are important. That's why your vote is worth much more than the $600. Alright, you must think it is actually your lifeline for the next 4 to 5 years. So every citizen must take their vote responsibly and correctly, right? And not give in to fear or intimidation. Alright? Don't say that experience equals to good. Alright? Past performance does not equal to future performance. Right? Okay? Like for example, you see some leaders that take the place, and essentially New Zealand's leader, for example, did she have any like was a party full of experienced members, etc., ministers, scholars or what? No. Lee Kuan Yew's party also started from Seamstress and see where it's now. They also started from opposition. But did it start giving the bad policy? No, it gave the right dose of the right stuff at the right time. So similarly, okay, we must not think of, the only party is the one that has lots of experience and everything. But see, are the policies doing any good? See where it lands you? Yeah. So, like for example, Malaysia, UMNO is also the biggest one, right? Yeah, and lots of experience and everything. Did it do the right thing? Think. Yeah. So you guys must think for yourself. Alright? And basically start to get educated, start to be aware. So there was a report in Straits Times that came out a couple of days ago or just yesterday, that there was that there's a lack of awareness and planning, right, among people in Singapore. Yeah, they are overspending. They kind of like lost their sensitivity due to COVID. Yeah, because they have to spend so much during COVID anyway. But that situation cannot go on. Poor policies planning cannot go on, right? So please plan your finances wisely and essentially raise your financial awareness. And last and not least, decide where your vote will go towards the right policies, right, or towards the wrong ones. Yeah, and does it really benefit you with the current existing system? Thank you.
My answer to your question is awareness. So please write something and share this video with your friends. Ask your friends to write something and share with their friends, because you might have noticed the things that we talk about today, or in today's 6th PV Open Forum, or in the last 5 Open Forums, a lot of the things that we talk about, you don't get to read about in the media, right? You probably don't get to hear much debate in Parliament about things that we talk about also.
No, we talk about bread and butter stuff.
Yeah, so
very simple.
Yeah, awareness. Okay. Now, website, for example, the Online Citizen closed down already. Okay, so it's awareness, right? Because anyway, the Online Citizen has started again, outside of Singapore, right? So it's alive now. Yeah, risen from the like the phoenix has rise. But you may have noticed recently they passed a new law that they can restrict access to foreign sites. You see, under the old law, you can only restrict access to a site that is Singapore site. Now the law has been changed. We can restrict access to overseas site also. Okay, so maybe you should share more now before if the day ever come, right, that even some of the foreign sites that talk about, as Michael said, the bread and butter issues that affect Singaporeans, you may not able to access. Of course, you can use VPN to access or whatever, but then for ordinary Singaporeans, the day might come that when I go to this address, how come it says block? Anyway, we have reached the end of today's should I call it show. Thank you very much for watching the 6th PV Open Forum. Let the numbers do the talking, not meaningful. And we will, as usual, be having the forum on the last Saturday of every month from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. on PV Facebook. Send us your comments, send us your feedback, send us your suggestions, send us your criticism. Thank you very much and have a good weekend.
Bye bye.
Finish it.